Hey family, what's up? Pull up. It's Tosh MAMABEAR Prepping. You already know what time it is. Get your drink. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, we just talk about food preservation, emergency preparedness overall. Basically, we talk about what me and my family do, and hopefully we will help each other in this endeavor of being ready for anything that might come your way to your family's doorstep, okay? And being ready for that. Now, today, I kind of want to talk about, I'm kind of feeling some type of way, and I want to talk about all the things that, we as a society, just don't want to talk about, right? If it's not brought up in, main media, social media, it's like it's not important, right? But there's things that have come up in the media, in the news media. We don't give them that much attention. You have folks that feel both sides of the story, right? And you have some folks that are like, well, this is just, they're just trying to put fear in us. This is fake news. This is not real. But I would venture there's things that are important and needed to be tracked and needed to be discussed. Because if those things would have went left, meaning would have went all the way sideways, would have ended up bad, it would have been super, super bad for us, right? And you have things that are still happening right now in the world and in our country that we just are like, well, it's not that big of a deal because the numbers aren't that big and it's no big deal. I was talking about RSV. I didn't see any channels talking about RSV when I started talking about RSV, and RSV is still off the chain. And you saw some media talk about it, but they only want to discuss it in the sense of, they only want to discuss it in the sense of there's a triple demic, you have COVID, flu, and RSV. You better get your boosters, right? It's all about the agenda instead of talking about why is RSV popping up all of a sudden, right? Let's talk about that. Is it because of COVID? Is it because of something else? I mean, RSV has always been here. It's like the flu. It's a thing, right? But we've never seen it to a level that it is right now. Why aren't we discussing the whys behind that? Back a while ago when all the children were dying and very, very sick from the hepatitis and nobody really knew anything, we didn't really talk about it for very long, right? And I hate the fact that when medical stuff happens, we're always chasing our tails, right? We're never proactive with stuff. We never discuss stuff until we're to the point and the brink where we have to discuss it because it's so bad, right? Even COVID, it took a very, very long time for that conversation to get started. And then when it got started, it was like, boom, it's a pandemic, right? And everybody was like, what, And of course there was agendas, going into that, we've got unexplained deaths right now. A ton of them that have been happening over the last year and a half that nobody is talking about. Nobody wants to talk about why young people are dying, why athletes are dying, why totally healthy adults are dying with no ailments. They don't take any kind of prescriptions. They're totally healthy 1 minute and then they're gone the next. Nobody wants to discuss why is this happening, right? We know why it's happening, but we don't want to discuss it because then it messes up everything that we told the people, right? And a lot of people fell in line with that. And I'm not here to choose a side, okay? I think I've made it clear my side, okay? But I'm here also to tell you that I'm not here to judge anybody for whatever side of that you ended up on, right? That's your right, okay? That's what makes it great here, is for you to make your own decisions. But what I think is dangerous is that we're not discussing this. We're not talking about it because it doesn't fit the agenda. And in the meantime, you're just going to continue to have people dropping dead. And we're not even going to begin to see if there's ways that anything can be reversed or treated or whatever. Okay. If anything, data taken so that we can learn from this, so that the next time when something pops up and we do a last minute, vaccine, that we're ready and we're more prepared than we were last time. Talking about diseases, monkeypox. Monkeypox, nobody wanted to talk about monkeypox. Oh, it's fake news. It's not real. Oh, it's only gay men. We don't need to worry about this. Oh, they're trying to hype us again and scare us like COVID. This is the next COVID. They're trying to scare us. Don't even talk about this. And in the meantime, I'm watching it because I like to know infectious diseases that are happening in a hold of people, right? That is concerning for me and my family, because at the end of the day, this is a preparedness channel. This is a channel to prepare you. And something like monkeypox should concern you, because we've discussed on this channel pox in general multiple times and ways to prepare for that, and how that is going to come to our doorstep one day. And here you had something that is in that same family and was acting differently. That should concern you enough to be paying attention and to follow what's happening with that, right? That's still happening. Zero talk about it. Ebola, because it's somewhere else, we're not going to talk about it. The numbers aren't high enough. We need millions to die before we want to pay attention. Unless it's going to fit an agenda, we're not talking about it. Okay. But we should talk about it because we should be concerned. We're talking about it enough to just let people know, hey, we've done a couple things, a couple protocols. We've got a couple things in place, for travelers coming from that area. And that's all good. And that does kind of hush down or make the folks that are paying attention, I guess, feel okay and feel better about the situation, so that there isn't panic and people don't freak out. And that's not what we're trying to do here. It's important, though, that we talk about things and discuss things, because that's how you become a proactive people instead of a reactive. We were super reactive with COVID, super reactive. And so when you talk about things, learn about things, understand what's happening, and a lot of people know that, then you can get ahead of stuff and you can be proactive. And for us, little people, just a regular citizen, right, that's just trying to protect us and protect our family and keep our head on a swivel and pay attention, it's important to just kind of be able to follow what's happening, right? And if we're not talking about it as a society and as a country, that can be difficult, because you really have to go down some rabbit holes to get some facts and to see what's going on. Or it's just not covered. So there's just flat out not a lot of coverage. Let's talk about some other stuff. Bird flu, that was for an agenda when they were pushing it on the news. They were pushing because we've been pushing this whole agenda about, a meatless society and treatment of animals, and do we really need to kill animals to eat them, and just all of this stuff, right? And so bird flu popped off, and that was just like everywhere, and the agenda was to push it. This is happening, this is horrible, this is why we don't need birds, we don't need them at all, we don't need eggs, we don't need meat, we don't need any of that whole cycle, right? We'll just, manufacture fake stuff because we can do that. And that's just the way of the future. And so they pushed that, and they pushed it, and they pushed it, and they pushed it. And then all of a sudden it wasn't on the agenda, and they didn't talk about it, and they haven't talked about it. But bird flu, you still have millions and millions of birds being killed for bird flu. Well, why is that important for just you and me, little peons, to be aware of? Well, understanding that and what's happening will make you understand when you see shortages, of chicken, or you see shortages of eggs, which we did see already, right? And we go through pockets of where we are short on that stuff, right? It's also important for you, if you're trying to move towards a life of self-sufficiency and you don't have chickens yet, or some sort of birds that are egg laying, or you want to raise them for meat yourself, you being able to get into that pocket of doing that before maybe there's some regulations saying you can't do so, right? And just understanding how that works and you moving forward and how that plays into your plans, right? Also, if you already have birds, the access that they have to other birds, right? To domestic other birds that are coming in, that they're getting in contact possibly. A lot of this you don't really have to worry about unless you do. You might want to worry about this if you have 40, 60 chickens and they're free range and they're all over, and possibly they are intertwining with other species, other bird species, right? So you may have to worry about that. It's just smart to understand all the things that are happening around you, and bird flu is still happening, but we just don't want to talk about it. What else? Talked about the unexplained deaths. That wasn't even discussing, all the cancers, increase in cancers, increase in blood clots, increase in respiratory problems, increase in reproductive problems in males and females. You talk about the Great Reset and New World Order, and these folks that openly say, they are for depopulation. That's kind of part of the plan that is written into the dialogue of these programs. It's scary to think that we've already started that, and it's normal, and everybody's just walking around like it's okay. It's okay that all these people are dropping dead. It's okay that all these people are getting cancer. If you had cancer, it's coming back. You have folks that never had cancer that now have cancers. You have people, blood clots. I can't tell you how many people I personally knew, okay, when I was leaving the military and we were going through this, that I personally knew were dealing with blood clots. That's crazy that in my tiny little world, I would have such a high number of folks knowing people that were dealing with cancers, blood clots, that type of thing. That's crazy to me, okay? Those numbers shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be that prevalent in your little tiny circle of the world. You know how many folks in the comments, when I talk about this stuff, talk about family members that have passed away, all types of family members that are having problems, are having blood clots, having this, having that, right? It's insane. And it's so insane that I cannot even believe that the majority of our citizens don't want to be like, what's going on? And that should scare you, because that should tell you that the majority really are sheeple. The majority really are the quiet, reserved, don't want, head in the sand, don't want to pay attention to this stuff, do not want to understand it, have no desire to understand it, have no desire to understand the workings of what is really going on. And that should scare you, because when something major comes down the road, and it will, that's why we talk about, 90% aren't going to make it, because 90% are not paying attention, right? And therefore are completely caught off guard on what to do next when something major happens. And that's why, you see these movies depicting people just making the most horrible decisions, right? And you're like, what? Like, that's what you're going with? That's what you're going to do to try to survive? Because they don't know. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous for you, for anybody who thinks like us, who is creative and thinking of wanting to know and is inquisitive of what is happening around you and why it is happening. But that's the minority, right? You're not the majority. And that's the problem. And that's why it's important that you keep preparing for yourself to take care of you and your family. And how do you defend that? And how do you work through and adapt and keep your family safe through chaos that is going to ensue? A lot of people would say, it's in the Bible, it's coming, it's happening, right? But again, I would venture to say, be so bold right now as to say, there's a bunch of Christians that have their heads in the sand and are, know things are going to get crazy, and still are like, no, this is crazy. I don't want to. That's not really what's happening. And they are part of that group. Okay. Or the dynamic of like, well, God's going to come back and get me. And so who cares about all this? Like, are you serious right now? Like, it's a very small percentage of people who are like me and who think like me, act like me. It's just a very, very small amount. It's not that big, right? What else do I want to talk about? China, baby, these lockdowns. Let me tell you, I don't care, but I do care, because again, I like to know information. I like to know what's going on. These lockdowns for them have been going on for months, for this last year, on and off. You now have these bigger cities that are getting more involved and are more like, what is going on, and more of revolution and revolting and pushing back. We're not going to do this. You have a lot of panic in the streets, a lot of protesting. You have a lot of panic in the stores, in the grocery stores, and getting supplies, because people are realizing things are getting hot. And they're not ready for it to get hot, right? They all have their heads in the sand and they have their eyes down like they are trained to be over there. And some of them are like, no, what is going on? Like, this is too long. This is too much. This is not right. And they're starting to fight back. I think it matters. I think it matters because if you think our government, our people, those New World Order people, those Great Reset people, the U.S. If you think that they're not watching the dynamic of how this lockdown is either working or not working, and what pieces and aspects of that and how that, has to do with us as a people on whether we will listen or not, and what works and what doesn't work, they are, right? And that's the scary part, that this is just kind of they get a peek inside of a society. Now, if we tried to go in some kind of lockdowns in the future, I don't know that it would be that easy because of what we've already gone through. And people secretly behind don't want to talk about it, but no, things were not done right, and things that there's detrimental, people dying, mistakes that were made, right? And so I don't think it would go down as smoothly as it did before. But again, if it's as deadly, if something comes around that is actually super deadly, you won't have to argue with people. People will go in their homes. They will go and they will lock down, because they will lock down themselves, right, for the safety of their family. What else did we not talk about? Okay, so this is a huge one that is still going on, and I guess we just don't care, and that's the border. I guess the border, the fentanyl, the biggest drug, fiasco for decades is happening before us, and we're talking about it a little bit, but we're not really discussing why, how is this happening? How is this, craziness, chaos of people dropping dead from fentanyl? Why are we letting this happen? We're literally letting this stuff just walk into our country, and we don't talk about it. We don't show the border anymore. We don't talk about the border. That is still an open, wide border. Thousands of people still coming through, and we just aren't going to talk about it. We're just going to pretend like it's not a thing anymore. It's not happening. It's just a piece of news that was happening, but it's not happening anymore. But yet we have these huge issues with this huge drug problem that is literally killing people. And we don't have no task force. We don't have nothing coming together from Congress to just battle this and fight this. No, we'd rather fight just silly stuff, right? I tell you what, it's almost will make a person go crazy. This stuff that we care about and care to discuss, and this stuff that's so important that we would just care to not talk about. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. I'm sure you're going crazy in the chat room right now this whole time. Your opinions and all this stuff. I didn't go as hard as I could have gone with some of my topics. Sometimes I wish I did have a Patreon so I could just go real hard with my thought process. Let me tell you this. If you think COVID wasn't just this big thing that they knew they had to just gloss over us, right, and not have us think too much into things that were happening and how fast things were happening. Do you understand that they came out and said finally that there was aliens here? That's how crazy and how desperate they were to just gloss things over and squirrel us away. They actually came out after decades and decades and decades and confirmed, hey, yeah, there's aliens. There's alien sightings. Here's the documents, da-da-da-da-da. Something that people... tin hat foil crazies have been talking about forever, right? And have known there's something, right? And and they're going to come out and just nonchalantly be like, yeah, here's this report. Hey, by the way, we're going to confirm there's aliens. If that right there isn't enough to show you how much they were trying to just get us to not pay attention to the whole everything that was going on, I don't know what is. And then we never even, it had taken so long for them to even admit that it kind of was okay, that just kind of glossed over and was like crickets. But if you think about the magnitude of that, secret that they try to keep from the American people, okay, from the world, and then they drop it on us during a time where there's just all this craziness and chaos going on. It just, if that doesn't make you think, I don't know what does. So listen, it's Friday, baby. Lots of things going on. you know, I'm taking folks to the train station. One of the parents is going with hubby to the train station, so we got some road tripping going on today. Just lots of moving things happening. I hope you guys are staying busy. You know, my other channel, I'm going to be bringing a ton of food preservation videos your way, starting next week, right? Once the parents are all the way gone, I'm going to get heavily back into food preservation, and I'm going to be bringing those videos to you on my other channel, the Mama Bear Homestead channel. And as always, I'm doing videos over there on Tuesdays and Fridays. So today at 3, after this video drops, you'll have that other video, okay, over there. I'm gonna talk about like super plants that are like so important to have and know, and have in your garden, that are healing stuff, that are like no-brainers. And some of that stuff is just everyday garden stuff that people, I don't think, realize how important it is in the medicinal properties that it has in it. Okay, so anyway, stay well. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for, you know, talking about some of these things. You know, maybe this will be finally censored. I don't know. I've never been censored in the sense of having videos taken down yet, you know, knock on wood. But I hope you guys are talking about it today, and talk about it in the comments. Like, let it just out on what you want to say, about things and your concerns. Okay. And, I'll see you on the next video. You guys take care. Bye.